the middle class is trying to get rich. So there's a lot of pressure in buying things that will go up.
Hmm.
But if you release yourself of that and just focus on the income, I promise you, you don't have to become a millionaire. A lot of people think, oh, you need to become a millionaire, be financially free. Think about it. If you had no mortgage, that's like making an extra $2,000 to $3,000 a month. That's a shadow income that's not there. If you have a paid off car, but everybody else is paying 1,000 a month on their car payments, that's like making an extra. So you have a lot just by paying off the debt. It's like an income that you don't need as much income when you have your expenses down to a sustainable level, down to a level where your lifestyle you can be free, but you don't need to have a Jaguar in the driveway and a 5,000 square foot house. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying get your financial house in order and become financially independent first. It's going to take you between 5 to 10 years. But once that's done, you can do whatever the hell you want.
As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Reluctant Preppers provides educational awareness and commentary only. Opinions expressed do not constitute personalized financial advice. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and seek qualified personal financial consultation before making investment decisions. Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. We're always glad to have this returning guest, Daniel Ameduri, self-made millionaire and author of the newly published book, Don't Save for Retirement. What a provocative title. Is here with us again. Daniel is also the co-founder of Future Money Trends. Daniel, thank you for joining us again here on Reluctant Preppers.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show. This is really where my heart of hearts is, the prepper movement.
We've talked with you about on that topic a couple of times in the past about layering your financial fortress and about making your preparations and then living your life so that you don't just stay in a bunker mentality, but actually don't forget to live along the way and have some joy with your family, because that's a treasure that nobody can take away from you, is those memories that you build day by day. So we wanted to zoom in a little bit on a rather interesting topic of your book, Don't Save for Retirement, the Millennials Guide. And if you want to hold up a copy of that, we'll put a picture of it up for our viewers as well. And talking about the Millennials Guide to Financial Freedom. In fact, that's one of the things I wanted to know if you could zoom in for us, is that we've been talking about paradigm changes that are happening all around us in the world, in our economy, in how we have to take care of ourselves in many different ways. And for one thing, you've been financially independent since a rather early age. If you could start us off by telling us what financial independent, how you define that. What does it mean to you? Because a lot of us were brought up by our parents or our grandparents talking about preparing for retirement. It occurs to me because Catherine Austin Fitts sent us this book, the Solari Report, and you look at about the game of money, she calls it, and right at the beginning it says you go to college, get a job, work hard, save for retirement, put your money into pension plans, and it goes on around. And all in all, this bad stuff happens. Like the government takes over and taxes away all your stuff, and then pretty soon you end up down here sitting around the campfire, kind of at the poorhouse at the end. So if people...
That's a cool book. I haven't heard of that one.
Oh, yeah. It's chock full of research on what the government actually does with our money. And the point being that just that old adage about work hard, save for retirement may not get you there. In fact, that was echoed by Robert Kiyosaki that we met in person at the Red Pill Expo this summer. So what does financial independence mean to you, and how did you achieve it at such an early age?
It's a great question because it can mean many different things. So the word wealth can mean different things to different people. To me, wealth means the liberty of my time. Do I control my time and what I do with my time? And it links up directly to financial independence, because how am I going to get the freedom of my time? Well, I'm going to have to buy it. And so for me to become financially independent was to be able to be secure enough to where my passive income, my multiple streams of income from businesses and investments, paid for my lifestyle. Now, I didn't pay for an extravagant lifestyle, I just paid for a nice lifestyle where it was very comfortable. And my wife and I, we focused on paying off debts. We focused on being debt free, actually. But at the same point in time, we wanted to have passive income. So every week when I check my mail, I have checks coming in, or when I log into my bank account, it's always nice to see that some ACH came in from some sort of investment. And that's the real focus, that we really kind of had that mind shift from buying speculative things, which is what the middle class are pushed into, to hoping they'll go up, hoping the 401k goes up, hoping the mutual fund goes up, to buying things that the rich focus on, which is preservation of capital and income. So we focus on things that are on the safer side, but also produce income. Now, everybody knows that, I love speculating too, but I do that with a very small amount of my portfolio and overall net worth. That's where the fun is. That's where my passion is. However, when it comes to when I make money, it's best to be putting it in a place of preservation and focus on income.
One of the things you mentioned in passing there was multiple streams of income, and we've had Jerry Robinson, author of Bankruptcy of Our Nation, on our show several times, and one of the things he and his wife talk about is developing up to like 21 streams of income so that you're not overly dependent on the one thing. I remember as a kid watching like the Jetsons and some of those shows, and the biggest, or even like I Dream of Jeannie sometimes when we visit my grandma's house, and there was this grinding stress that was always present in the background emotionally in those shows, that the fear of being fired, the fear of being laid off, because if that one thing happened in your life, you were financially ruined, because then you were just the line between having a nice lifestyle and being on the streets was just that one arbitrary decision by one boss. So that's one of the things that echoed in what you just said about independence, was having this diversity, this robust set of income sources. And the other thing that in passing you just talked about was determining what lifestyle you were trying to support. I understand you took some rather, I don't know, some people might say extreme measures along the way in terms of reducing what you needed to get by.
We did. The goal, after we had lost money in a lot of foreclosures in the financial crisis, we really wanted to focus on just not being poor. So we saved 50% of our expenses from just moving. And then we got rid of our dogs who had medical bills. That was $150 a month. We stopped buying meat. We stopped going out to dinners. Now, that isn't a permanent lifestyle. That is just simply what we did to kind of shock and reset the system in our own lives to where we could now put ourselves on a sustainable lifestyle. And, it was shocking how low I was able to get our monthly expenses. But what that helped was the passive income didn't have to be $10,000 a month at that time. I just needed a few $1,000s a month. So, just by paying a water bill with our first passive income checks and really building on that, and it snowballed. And, we really focused on sustainability. We made sure we had cars that we could own, even as a net worth millionaire, in 2012, and where I kind of declared my financial independence, not because of net worth, but because of passive income that paid the bills. I drove a paid off 2003 Nissan Altima, which was 9 years old at the time. So we lived very sustainable lives. But as you do that, and then it snowballs. If you have no debt and your income's coming in, and your income is growing because you have 5 or 6 sources of income now, it's able to build on it to where you ultimately will be able to unlock that true lifestyle that maybe you desire. Maybe you want to fly first class or go on really nice trips and vacations, or maybe you want to take the whole family. That's all possible. But it's going to take some short-term sacrifice and some sustainable living. Too many times, and we've talked about this before, people sign up for 5 to 7, 8 year auto payments because they make $50,000 a year, so they think they should get a $50,000 truck. That's just stupid. Same thing buying more, these mortgages that are 10 times people's income. Just because the bank says yes doesn't mean it's a great idea. Mm-hmm. And so it's really a focus on sustainability. But in the beginning, you are going to want to shock your lifestyle with some spending cuts. And that'll free up some cash to buy the income, because what you're really trying to do is buy as many assets that cash flow as possible.
What you just said echoes what Robert Kiyosaki was talking about to us at the Red Pill Expo, and we did a personal one-on-one interview with him, folks. If you search our channel for Robert Kiyosaki, you'll find his interview on that. And he talked about how we get taught. In fact, his new book is called Fake, and it's about how we're mistaught by the people who aren't qualified to teach us about financial independence, and how we're taught that not explain to us what a real asset is. And that's what you just put your finger on there, was an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. So can you talk to us about maybe looking back, what you consider to be some of your good moves that you made early in the process when you were just kind of digging out from that beginning point, and you said, "Yep, looking back, that was a real good move that I did that, and I did that, and did that."
Sure. I mean, getting down to sustainable living and paying off our mortgage. Now, I'll tell you, it's shocking to people, but we were in California. We lived in a neighborhood where everything was $500,000. So we moved an hour away from that area and we bought a $95,000 house in the desert. Believe me, everybody thought we were crazy, but it turns out to be a very good move. We were able to pay that house off aggressively, and that unlocked our true potential, to be honest with you. Once that debt was off, then we started nabbing as much income as possible. And we started buying income properties. And, I had wrecked my credit in '08. So we bought seller finance deals. Where there's a will, there's a way. I've always been good at conditioning my brain to not believing there's such a thing as a problem. In fact, nothing makes me angrier in my business if somebody says, here's a problem, and then that's it. No, there's always a solution. So we started I bought seller finance deals for 11 years. And now I'm on the other side where I'm buying houses and then selling them to other people. And this time I'm the seller who's financing them and offering them owner financing. So we did that, and those were really good decisions. That's something that conventional finance and most conventional teachers of finance, they don't even know it exists. And if they're aware of it, they kind of think that was something done 50 years ago. But it's actually quite common, especially when you get into the 3, 4-plex and 5-unit and up, becomes very common, seller financing. So we focused on that, and that did really well for us. Another thing we focused on was preservation, focus on not losing. So we bought a lot of private real estate investment REITs and equity because we weren't looking for the volatility of price gains. We were looking for the safety of just having income. And then also we did enjoy speculating. We invested in precious metal companies back in the day. Since then we've really been focused more on cannabis, and we are starting to get back into precious metals. But buying some of these silver stocks and gold stocks, they performed really well. And I, like many people, thought that gold would have been at $3,000 by now, and that we would have seen some sort of major currency crisis, but we didn't. So what we kind of just focused on was just buying the safest companies we could, either ones that had a lot of gold or people who we knew could get another check. Because one thing in the gold business that people should always consider is that if you're a rookie geologist and you fail, you're pretty much done. If you're a geologist who got lucky, you can get billionaires and millionaires to write you checks forever, because they're like, well, this is the guy who did this he discovered the largest silver deposit in 1980. He hasn't done anything for 30 years, but he can still get checks. Marin Katusa actually shared a shocking thing one time with me, some data, that 1 in 1,000 geologists make a discovery, but get this, the one that does out of the 1,000 goes on to make a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. And I don't think it's because he's got some sixth sense. I think it's because that first discovery, now he's getting a bunch of people to write him checks to keep drilling and keep looking for things. So, just focusing on different investments that were speculative, but we kept them limited. A lot of people make the mistake of putting too much. They hear about a gold stock and they go all in, or they hear about a tech play, or, these, whatever, scooter company, a cannabis company, and they go all in. Keep those things very, very small, and keep 90% of your focus on income and hard assets that are safe.
Can we talk about the playing field that we're in? And that's your millennial focus on your book, I think, is timely, because there's a lot of talk. Well, a lot of the visitors on our channel, guests on our channel, and people who write in comments on our channel say that the deck is stacked against us currently, that there's been a concerted series of policies and structures and laws and everything that are put in place to basically bleed the middle class dry. And because you're the one, I mean, even George Carlin had his shtick about that, about the definition of the classes, and the one in the middle class was the one that does all the work and pays all the taxes. So people say that it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, to where people have gone from one income households to 2 income households. Now they got side hustles, they got 3 and 4 incomes, just to keep themselves being able to not fall into the lower class rung. So is it true that for millennials who believe that the deck is stacked against them today, that they don't have the same opportunities that their parents or grandparents had, that they don't have the freedom? What do you say? Because you say it annoys you when people say, I only have a problem and that's it. That's the end of the story. So What do you tell millennials?
So for millennials specifically, they don't have the same opportunities as the baby boomers, but they have new opportunities, perhaps better opportunities. They can start a business for $10 at GoDaddy. They can generate income from all sorts of freelance opportunities. They can sign up for Uber tonight and start making money. And if they treat it like a business and over deliver value to customers, I talk to Uber drivers all the time who they make a pretty decent chunk of change. And I'll tell you, as a millennial myself, life's become very, very easy. My wife just ordered the groceries from Whole Foods. I got rid of my car in May because I was like, what the hell do I need a car for? I'll just Uber around everywhere I want to go and I'll save a ton of money on insurance and registration and gas and everything else. I don't even need a car. So there's opportunities are gone and opportunities have been created for the millennials. Now, are the decks stacked against them? Absolutely, if they play by the 1970s and 1980s rules. Now, if they adopt and embrace the economy that's in front of them for all its problems, if they actually embrace delivering value to other people, and that an employer is not going to take care of you from cradle to grave, that you have to be responsible for yourself, I think they can do very well. Now, we also have to consider that people who need two incomes or need a side hustle and are living off credit card, they're living unsustainable lives. They should be living in a much cheaper area, or they should be saving money temporarily or getting rid of some of these excess expenses. I'm so tired of hearing about middle class people who have $600 car payments. That is nuts. Even when I made six figures for the first time, I did not let my car payment go over $200. I shouldn't have even done one in hindsight. Now I should have just bought one cash for $10,000 or 15. But like people put themselves in really bad situations, and a lot of people read this book have already done that. And the message for them is you can undo this. It's not too late. You can fix this. My book, by the way, if you go to futuremoneytrends.com/save, you can read the first chapter in the intro, and the intro is where it starts. And I'm in a bankruptcy attorney's office with my wife. So it doesn't matter where you start. The fact of the matter is there are opportunities everywhere. I think it's Peter Schiff who always says there's a bull market somewhere. There's a bull market everywhere. There's always opportunities for millennials. And sometimes they just need to suck it up and move. People who are struggling in California, there's a ton of opportunity right now in Texas. And if you're struggling in the United States, there are a lot of other countries that would be happy to take a skilled English-speaking worker. Because guess what? Who's going to service the tourists? I just got back from Japan, and a few weeks ago I was in Kenya. And I was shocked. There's a lot of people from the United States out there working. And I was like, what are you doing here? They pay top dollar here because they need an English speaker to accommodate a lot of their guests and their tourists.
That's another thing when you talk about retirement. Don't save for retirement, the title of your book. A lot of people, we were brought up with the idea that the way that you get to retirement is you incrementally pile up this enormous nest egg of money, and when it finally gets to be the size, whether that's millions or whatever it is, that you can figure, okay, even at some real conservative 5% a year or something like that, I could live off of that 5%. So I got to build up 20 times my expected income so that I can live off of it. I think you're telling people that's not the only definition of independence, because you flip that whole thing around.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, Adam and Eve did not have 401k plans. We treat retirement as if it's been with our society forever, and it hasn't. It's a failed experiment, essentially. You look at the first people to participate in a pension plan, or first people to participate in Social Security, for example, $28 in, $50,000 plus. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but it's a crazy number. If you Google the first recipient of Social Security, I mean, literally $28 in, and then she proceeds to take like $50,000 or more, it might even be $60,000, $70,000 out of the system. So of course it worked for these people. The baby boomers had the best setup in bonds, stocks, and real estate. And the only ones who successfully retired are the ones who had high income and lived like peasants and were very frugal. But even them, it's very difficult to condition the brain to save and be frugal for 40 years. And then all of a sudden at 65, 70, you're going to retire and spend money and kill the golden goose, which is your active income. They're sick. They don't feel good about it. It's not healthy. It's not normal to do that to yourself. And so my thing with don't save for retirement is don't save for conventional retirement. because it's simply an experiment that has had bad results for a generation that really should have had it easy. To be honest with you, the baby boomers. So for millennials and stuff, and Gen Xers, and even baby boomers to get involved in this, I would highly recommend them apply the strategies of the rich, which is to preserve and buy things that make income, and as opposed to this idea where you're going to defer and just keep saving. And let's be real, we're paying taxes the lowest they've been in 90 years. And if you defer your tax in a 401k, you're speculating. You have no idea what that rate is going to be in 2035 or 2040. But I guarantee you, with $20 trillion in debt and entitlements ballooning, and we're going to be paying more on the interest than the entire budget in about 12 years. And that's assuming interest rates stay low. You have no idea what the tax is. So, I mean, you're really speculating when you put money in a 401k. You have no idea what your withdrawal is. I'll give you a perfect analogy. Would you ever go to a bank and borrow $50,000 from them and not know what the interest rate is? That's exactly what you do. When you deduct that pre-money deduction on a 401k, you have no idea what the IRS is going to charge you on withdrawal. You have no clue.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about the mental? You talked about the mind shift and reconditioning your mind from how you were talking. This idea that financial independence comes from a decision to have a mindset that's looking for cash flow, cash streams, cash opportunities, income streams, that kind of thing, so that you could land on your feet. I mean, if somebody can land as you did, starting from bankruptcy, attorney's office, and go on to say within a period of time after that, now I'm financially independent. What is it about the mindset that you currently cultivate, that you currently develop and maintain, that makes you feel a sense of confidence, like your ability to be independent is not completely at the whims of the macroeconomy or whatever, that it's what you bring to it?
I think having no debt and having a paid off house is a very important step for people, and a worthy goal. It's not smart mathematically to pay off the house necessarily with 3.5% interest rate, but I'll tell you, it feels good, and I consider that the wealth effect, and it's a wealth dividend, freeing yourself of that obligation. And you can always say, what's the worst that can happen to me? I have my home, I own my home. And when it comes to the income, the middle class is trying to get rich. So there's a lot of pressure in buying things that will go up. Mm-hmm. But if you release yourself of that and just focus on the income, I promise you don't have to become a millionaire. A lot of people think, oh, you need to become a millionaire to be financially free. Think about it. If you had no mortgage, that's like making an extra $2,000 to $3,000 a month. That's a shadow income that's not there. If you have a paid off car, but everybody else is paying $1,000 a month on their car payments, that's like making an extra. So you have a lot just by paying off the debt. It's like an income that you don't need as much income when you have your expenses down to a sustainable level, down to a level where your lifestyle, you can be free, but you don't need to have a Jaguar in the driveway and a 5,000 square foot house. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, get your financial house in order and become financially independent first. It's going to take you between 5 to 10 years. But once that's done, you can do whatever the hell you want. Look, I flew on Southwest and Frontier and all those things 5-6 years ago. Now I fly in the front of the plane every time. But I didn't relieve myself of that until I was like, okay, I've got everything in order. My wife and I called it our financial moat. And that was no debt and passive income. And basically that was a buffer that protected us. And then we knew we were free to start spending. But even us, as young as we were, it still took us some time to even get comfortable with spending money again, because we were so focused on what we were doing. You can only imagine for a retiree who's been saving for 30 or 40 years, I don't think they have a chance. Even if they have $1 million in the bank and a paid off house, I think they're going to really struggle with enjoying their retirement. Yeah. I know from personal experience, people have very, very difficult transitioning into this new idea.
We just lost a close family member, the last of the generation ahead of us, and one of the things that grieves us is in finding that they did have significant assets, but didn't permit themselves to travel the way. I mean, like as my father-in-law, we lost my mother-in-law who had passed away about 5 years ago. Would love to have gone on maybe more cruises or gone on travel and that kind of things, but they were so devoted to this idea of frugality that they didn't permit themselves that, and now it's they don't have that option. They've left. So that's one of the things that it dwells on our mind. It's always in the back of our mind now. It's like not to postpone your life. And I guess it gets back to that sentiment that you brought to our very first interview together about make your preparations, but then live your life. Can you talk to us now about one of the concerns is near and dear to my subscribers on this channel, and that is, what about the potential of a serious credit lockup or financial collapse or a big inflationary or deflationary event or something so you've got your streams of passive income that seem like things are working, but it's working in an environment that we have today. What if the environment changes? How confident can we realistically be that some of those streams of income are still going to be present, or we do have to be just another problem we're going to have to solve, and how do you solve that?
Well, I think good diversification of your income will help, but consider that whether it's the Soviet Union or Germany or Japan, where I was just in Hiroshima a few weeks or 2 weeks ago, I mean, really bad things can happen, and then society continues to move forward. I'll give you a funny thing that my son, he had bought Amir Adnani and Keith Neumeier's gold stocks, and because he met them both, so he wanted to buy their stocks. Well, they went down 50% like the entire market did 2 years ago. And about probably 6 months ago, he came to me and said, Dad, and he came up on his own. He's like, Dad, I want to sell my gold stocks and I want to buy toilet paper companies. First thing I said, that might be the bottom for the gold market. We've got 9-year-olds buying toilet paper and selling the gold. So
that's a final capitulation.
It's pretty damn close to the bottom.
There's not blood in the street, but there's toilet paper all over the floor. Okay.
Well, I found a company called Kimberly-Clark. They dominate 70% of the paper market. And I was like, there you go. I was like, and I thought about that. I was like, that's really smart for them to think through that, because no matter what kind of crisis we have, we're going to continue to move forward. People are going to want, it's like Rick Rule talked about, people are going to continue to eat. We're going to continue to buy toilet paper, razor blades, and we're going to continue to want to live in homes. So I have a feeling that we will be just fine in passive income, assuming that we're not over leveraged. So that's one reason why I like to keep the leverage at a minimum and really focus on, because look, in the 2008 crisis, I had a lot of houses that went under because I was over leveraged, but I did have one duplex that I didn't have leverage to the extreme. And it went down 50%. The rents actually went up, so the income actually rose during the housing crisis because a lot of former homeowners were now having to rent. So that's something that people, a lot of times in the market, and I would bet everybody can relate to this. A lot of times what we think is going to happen, the exact opposite's going to happen. I mean, look at me. I went all in on silver in 2008, and it went from $21 to $8. So I didn't think that was going to happen. Now, everything else that I thought was going to happen happened, but the results were completely different. And I'm sure a lot of people in 2009 were like, man, I'm glad I don't own real estate. Meanwhile, landlords are raising the rents like crazy because all these people came into the market wanting to rent. So they were making a lot of money. And now those properties happen to be back to where they were, or probably even higher. So I would just, consider that whatever crisis we have, the society will move forward. And I'll tell you, I've been to 18 countries with my children in the last 2 years. And I used to be a hardcore anarchist, libertarian. I still am, actually. Don't let me get wrong. But I was kind of down on America. And America's got a lot of problems. We've got a lot of corruption. Epstein and all this stuff going on in the Russia thing. So much corruption with the deep state and the attack on our president. But I'll tell you, when I travel to other countries, I find myself having trouble convincing my kids that it's that bad in America. This is a great place to invest and a great place to come to. So consider that when there's a global crisis and the entire world is in a tailspin financially, which probably will happen in the next 10 years or less, I think a lot of foreigners are going to be coming here, buying real estate, relocating their families, just like we're sitting there thinking, man, where I've got to get to Singapore, or I've got to get to South America to escape. The rest of the world's thinking, man, I got to get to America. So consider that, that the infrastructure here, even if we have a full-blown reset, it's not going to change the look of what these communities look like. I got a community in front of me I'm looking at, overlooking, and I'll just tell you, This is still great real estate in the United States. Great, the infrastructure is good. It's here. You go to Europe, go to South Europe, in Italy and Spain and Portugal. The place is crumbling and falling apart. Without tourism, it's completely dead. It's not that way in the United States.
And when you talk about in your book, you also talk about how people can take something that they already have a passion for or already is a hobby of theirs and somehow find out ways to monetize that and create streams of income. So if they think, perhaps being a landlord isn't the first thing that comes to mind, what are some other examples of ways you want people to think to kind of break out of the box of what may be possible for them?
Well, certainly anyone who wants to monetize their hobby, it's easier than ever because of the internet. You can even monetize your job as your first client. If you have a small business and there's 50 people or less, odds are you know the owner. Imagine going up to the owner and saying, hey, you're paying me $70,000 plus another $15,000 worth of benefits. How about paying me $65,000 cash? I'll work from home. I'll get everything done. Nothing will change for you. You're just going to save 20 grand. But meanwhile, now you have your first client, and now you can go to the next company and say, hey, look, I service this company and I'd like to do the same for you. Here's what I've done. And all of a sudden now you're making 125,000 or 130,000 because you've got multiple clients. And a lot of people fear the idea of buying healthcare, but I'm sure on your show you've covered like Christian healthcare ministries. There's so many options, great options for healthcare. So if that's your fear, let it go, because I promise you there's many solutions for you. And then as far as investing, if you don't want to be a landlord, honestly, I'll be honest with you, I have about 15 properties. Some of them are very large, and one of them is like a 27 unit, and I don't even like being a landlord. So I have property managers run all this stuff. But it's even easier than that. If you don't want to get involved in any of that, you can buy private REITs. And I'm not talking about the REITs you'll buy on the stock market. I'm talking about what family funds involve themselves in. These are families with 50 million or more in liquid investable assets. These companies that are there in front of us, and I discuss them in the book, they've been around for 50 years, 100 years. So these are very stable companies. And when I say when you're in a private REIT, instead of owning some crappy single family house in Memphis, you can buy a fractional share into a private REIT and have a piece of the JW Marriott properties and the Ritz-Carlton and a brand new Walgreens that's going to be servicing all these baby boomers with their prescription drugs. So there's a way to actually even up your quality. The only reason to buy real estate physically yourself is because of the leverage. If you're not using leverage, you're far better off partnering with a very professional and seasoned group of real estate investors who use both debt and equity and perhaps even provide notes to other people. And you're much better off just investing with them.
One last question that's related to something we've talked about before is the changing landscape or the potential of a major reset, that kind of thing. I remember one time, this was shortly after the 2008-2009 setback, where we were driving back a different route than we usually took. This one took us over the northern route back from Ohio to Minnesota, and we were going over the north shore of Lake Michigan. And it was like we were just passing for sale, for sale, for sale, for sale, for sale. And I looked at my wife and I said, this is beautiful country. If somebody was really had the means, they could come and scoop up and they could do such things with this. So do you see coming an opportunity hidden in the storm clouds ahead, that if things get really bad, that there's going to be, for people who have that mindset of looking for special opportunities, that there's going to be basically a silver lining in the cloud that's coming?
Yeah, there always is. The opportunities will be during the crash, which is one of the reasons why I'm a big believer in holding physical gold, because I don't know where these fiat currencies are going. I have a feeling they're all going to circle the drain together until some sort of very large event happens. And gold, I'm certain it will have value. If it's a deflationary crisis, gold will hold its relative value, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be more of an inflationary crisis. And if you hold gold, I look at gold as a cash equivalent, and you'll be ready to deploy that capital. And you can buy up a lot of great assets. I mean, one of the stocks my kids buy, I think we talked on the last show, was Disney, because they understand the business, and it's a good way for them to learn about business and over delivering in value. And, how cool would that be to buy that stock really cheap, or a house, or a house for yourself. So for sure, I mean, I'm a big believer in having some gold and silver, at least 10% of your portfolio, because you want to also have a preservation of capital that can also be deployed in times of crisis, which we're overdue. So that's probably coming in the next few years here. Not even, I talk about a major crisis within 10 years, but a few years we should have some sort of small crisis, at the very least, perhaps in our housing market with interest rates.
Daniel, before we let you go, we're talking about your new book, Don't Save for Retirement. Any further thoughts, final thoughts you want to leave with our viewers as they contemplate, people in their life who maybe would benefit from this, who they might want to get this for a graduate or something like that?
Sure. I think this book's for anybody, whether you're 65 years old or you're doing really well. I think this is great just because if you're doing great, this is the iron sharpening iron. Look, I've done a ton of research. I've talked to so many people, and I've simplified it so that it's not an encyclopedia. It's something you can read, in hours. You could read this, in 3 evenings, but it will inspire you. It talks about, my wife and I's journey, as well as everything we are doing right now. I left nothing out. And again, if you go to futuremoneytrends.com/save, you can get the first chapter and the introductory for free.
We've been speaking with Daniel Ameduri, self-made millionaire and author of Don't Save for Retirement. Daniel, thanks for joining us on Reluctant Preppers.
Thank you so much.
It seems so hard to order. Who can I trust, and how do I even start?
Oh, you just go to sdbullion.com/rp, pick out whatever gold or silver you want, add it to your cart, you can check out, and it's on its way. And they're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau.
Wow, it's that easy?
Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/rp.
After I order gold or silver, how can I trust I'm going to get it? And I don't want everybody to know that I'm ordering gold and silver.
Oh, it's okay. It's fully insured, it's trackable, and you have to sign for it, so nobody else is going to get it but you, and it comes discreetly packaged. If you order a small amount, like maybe gold, it'll probably come in a box that looks something like this. Okay. And if you order a large amount, maybe like silver, it'll come in a box that looks something like this.
Wow.
But it doesn't say gold or silver on there. It might say something industrial or something else like that, but nobody's going to know what you ordered.
Oh, that's great to know.
Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/rp.
If I own gold or silver, how will I ever be able to spend it?
Oh, sure. Well, consider good times or bad times. Like in good times, you can sell it back to the same place you bought it from. sdbullion.com/rp will buy it back at the best price guaranteed on the internet. You can take it to a local coin shop and get cash in your hand, completely anonymous. Some people may be willing to take gold or silver coins in exchange for goods or services. Now, in bad times, when things have really fallen apart, time after time in history, people have found that in hard times, gold and silver really does come through as something that people recognize as value even after everything else has failed. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/rp.
What if gold or silver drop in price after I order it?
Well, everything fluctuates with time, but nothing has held up longer and better than gold and silver throughout all the changes that have happened in history. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/rp.
What good does gold do me anyway? I can't use it for anything.
Well, I think I found a form you might appreciate.
Wow. That's beautiful. Wow, I can wear that just about anywhere.
And you can take it with you through airport security and across borders. It's small and compact and lightweight, and you can even hand it down through generations. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/RP. Hey, Reluctant Preppers. If you haven't heard, we've already started our monthly 1-ounce U.S. Silver Eagle thank you gift to one active Patreon subscriber each month, signed by your host, Dunnigan Kaiser. And you don't want to miss out on that.
Please help us grow by subscribing today at patreon.com/reluctantpreppers.